Slurpty-derp, volume 2937. Slurp Anthology coming out soon. Don't worry. How's it going, my G's? It's Artifact. Here's another tutorial. It's another day in your life. You can't see my face. This is the Shakuhachi REESE 2.0, which I've just made because I did a little short, something like that. I was wearing my Shakuhachi shorts this morning, and I posted, because shout out to you, Tag. I know he watches this, Sticky, aka Tag, big time supporter in Discord. Big ups to you, brother. Thanks for giving me the confidence to go ahead and get back out my Shakuhachi, because it's a beautiful instrument, and it's probably a million ways you can resample it, to be fair. But this is a dope REESE, in my humble opinion. And all of that natural movement in the REESE is purely coming from like the sine wave, the FM from the sample. So isn't that wonderful? So if I just play you the kind of flute on its own. So I just matched it with my break here. Sort of by ear, it kind of feels like it kind of fits with like the progression of the break. You know, the sound kind of feels like it's got a good timing, even though it's like a long held sustained note. You know, all the articulations in the sound, I can sort of imagine that they sort of fit in with the timing, relatively speaking. So I thought that would be a cool place to bounce it out. So what I went ahead and did is I quite simply bounced it out into Vital. By the way, I hope you guys are doing well. I know that I can be a bit silly on these videos sometimes, and maybe sometimes a bit cocky as well, but it's all just for a laugh, really, at the end of the day. So don't take anything too seriously. I'm just trying to make the videos like a bit entertaining and educational at the same time. I think it's more fun like if I'm a bit silly while I'm not teaching, because you might sort of, you know, take in the information with a bit more of a smile on your face. At least that's the plan anyway. Maybe my jokes just don't land with a lot of you and you're just like, what the hell are you talking about? Which is fine. Anyway, we're going to get back into the Shakuhachi. And again, like how I always go on about before, you know, sound design, open, endless amount of possibilities. You know, pick your own sound, resample it. In this case, I'm just demonstrating, you know, how you can make a cool REESE bass sound that I could easily use in a D&B track just from picking a random Shakuhachi recording and like just really going to town on it with some juicy sine waves and saw waves. So let's mute the original audio file again. So we've just got the break and the Vital patch. All I've got is a little bit of side chaining already going on, and then it's just being clipped by the Camel Crusher. And yeah, I'll quickly turn off the effects, and these are just really to enhance the already existing cool sound that came from the Shakuhachi being modulated within the voicing section. Well, that was a lot of words. Yeah, so I threw the sample into the sample section. Just turn it down a bit. I've left it at the original pitch, and I believe it's in D. I could be wrong, but it sounds like it's in D. I know that the lowest, if I play the lowest note on the Shakuhachi, I think it is a D. I seem to remember that. I might be wrong. Anyway, I've also put the Shakuhachi into here, and I use the vocode mode. So when you drag it in, you get three options. You can't see them now, but in the middle is vocode. I think that one sounds quite cool. So I put vocode on. And then, like I've mentioned in previous videos, you have to modulate the slider to go up and down so that it plays out the waveform. So, you know, putting it on a slow LFO, ramping up, and then you can kind of hear it on its own. And, you know, it's articulated its own synthetic version of the sample, and it's got these kind of little weird movements that try to replicate, you know, the sort of vibrato that's already on the flute, which is wicked. And I've decided to blend it in with the sample. So if I take off the FM sample amount, you know, actually to find the right pitch of this little nugget up here, Now at -12, I thought it would have been in pitch, but it's not. So I've had to go down to -14 to get it to fit. And just by ear, I can hear that harmonizes with the original sample down here. Shout out to original sample sin. So yeah, once all this kind of magic is happening, we're gonna further magicize it. We're gonna magicize it. Magikarp. Shout out to Magikarp. We're gonna add the FM sample. And what it's doing at this level here, because obviously you go up super high with the sample, and it's gonna start. You're gonna have a bad time. You know, FM things too much, and it just becomes a noisy mess. So I always like it in this first sort of half of the knob. Yeah, so when I've FM'd that, it sounds like it's just enhancing the texture, but the kind of original movement from the kind of articulations that the Vital already kind of mapped out for us is still there, and it's just sort of enhanced the texture and made it a bit dirtier. You know, it starts to get a bit sort of growly, which I really, really liked. But then it's quite a high up sound. You know, it's more like a sort of lead, like high-end E kind of area. So the next thing for me was to like introduce some lower oscillators to get a bit more beefiness out. And if I FM that higher like textural sound that we've got now into a lower sine wave, then I'm definitely gonna get like a nice balance of, you know, mid-rangey high-end growl coming through into a bass, and that's the idea. So that's my thinking behind that, why I'm doing that next. So I've got another sine wave here, and I've had to go down to -14 to get it to fit in pitch, you know. And this is coming in hot on the FM oscillator 1. So it's all going through into our sine wave here, everything that we've done previously. And if I just mute this modulation, what happens is as the sound progresses and it gets to that really sort of growly part where everything starts to go a bit crazy, you'll hear, if I don't have this modulation on, it's like, it's almost a bit too much. It's still nice, but it kind of gets a bit too like distorted for me. So what I've done is I've put a little on the same LFO as this kind of slider and everything. I've just turned back the FM amount, so we get a little bit less FM as it goes up. So it kind of smooths off, and it becomes a little bit softer as it goes up. Just to kind of keep things in check, so that the whole sound has like a natural level, or just not too much of a varying difference in terms of its distortion. And yeah, what I've done finally, to sort of pad the sound a bit more, I added also in a saw wave, and the saw wave comes directly in from the FM sample, so it's sort of blending with the sample a bit, and it's detuned with more voices, so it's a bit of a stereo feeling. You know, Reese is always like made of saw waves, and now we're getting that stereo saw wave Reese part of the sound in here as well. If I play it on its own, I've actually mapped the level to my padding here, so I can control how much I want of the sound. So with the padding turned up, I essentially turn up this saw wave. And when you kind of layer it in with the rest of the oscillators, it just provides this extra kind of thickness. But I don't like that high-end crunchiness on it, so I'm going to put on a filter 1 with the oscillator on a sort of a low pass. Just on this padding, on this saw wave here. So I'm sort of padding out the mid-range a little bit. I'm going to blend this back now because I don't want it all the way. But you can control that in your own version of the patch if you grab it. I'm going to probably throw it up on Discord actually, because Tag inspired it, so shout out to you again. And yeah, so the next thing I go on to do then, I mean, I did a little bit of form scaling just to kind of shape the saw wave so it's a little bit different. And the next thing I did was to add in some effects. Just a little bit of filtering that sort of just comes up over time, and it's a very, very small little detail. Been randomized a little bit here. The compressor, we start to we open the floodgates, as I like to say. When you have the attack up all the way, the release down, the mix is up, it's mental. Really opening the floodgates. Bit of sort of saturation power almost from the compressor, and we're just going to mix that in a little bit. No, it's a small amount of mix, but it just brings out a lot of juice. And yeah, then a little bit of distortion, soft clipping. Always keep things nice and clean with that. Beautiful fish. And then a chorus, just a little bit of stereo padding again. A little bit like I'm padding the sound with my sort of mid-range saw wave. I'm padding out the sides of the sound to give a bit of width to it, but very, very small amount again. And then EQ, I've done a little bit of mid-range magic, where I've just picked out a nice spot in the middle somewhere to boost that sounds cool. And it's around sort of 800, I think, or a little bit less. Yeah, filling out the sound, and then touch of reverb, just to say hi to Mr. Reverb. And I love the way that flute sort of comes in, you know, a little bit more at the end when everything else sort of tails off. You hear a bit of the original sample at the end. So that is my Shakuhachi REESE, and I believe it sounds rather wicked. Oh, that was cool. Oh. So I'm going to leave the preset up on my Patreon, just to shout out to those guys, and thanks for your support and all that shanaza. I don't know why I said shanaza, that's not even a word. Yeah, don't do anything I wouldn't, for goodness sake.